Okay, we have our workday on assignment 2. Remember, as we're working through the class, and it's great that you're in class, it's a lab class, we use this time to do most of our work, but we always follow this course outline. So if you ever miss class, you know what you're responsible for. And here we are on the 17th. So what we're doing today is we're working on Unit 5. We're continuing to work on Assignment 2, which we introduced at the end of last class. That means that you can look for a video introducing it in our YouTube. And today we're going to make a lot of progress towards it. It's worth 3 points, and it is due next class. Just to look ahead on the course outline a little bit, Question of the Day 2 is also part of Unit 5. And Question of the Day 2 is about copyright protections. And it's the question of the day that requires that you do the only required reading for the class. So all of these readings are optional, except for Chapter 2, which is way up there. And it's also in the question of the day. You'll see that in Unit 5. Now, why I'm pointing this out, looking ahead a little bit, is that we do Assignment 1, we do Assignment 2, and you would think, well, then we'll do Assignment 3. But instead, we do our first Proving Ground. Now, Proving Grounds are for your Creative Problem Solving badge. And our first Proving Ground is going to combine Assignments 1 and 2 together. It's what I call a Creaturescape. It's worth 1.5 points, but it has very specific rubric requirements for that creative problem solving. So this is to motivate students, especially as we're getting used to portfolio assignments, to keep improving their assignments as they go, right? So after we've turned in our creature, we've already turned in our landscapes, or we're still working on them to perfect them. This gives us another opportunity and another reason to work on them so that they can combine well. Then we move on to our last compositing project, which is Assignment 3. And Assignment 3 is animation. So we move very quickly from controlling layers, controlling color, controlling pixels, controlling selections, to animating with them. So that'll be fun. And your animation is going to include something that you've already designed. So that could be your creature, that could be your landscape, that could be your emoji, that could be your line art jumble, but you will be required to use one of those things in your animation. All right, so moving on from the course outline. Remember, you can get the full introduction to the projects, the full context by going through the units. So this is about concept art. And you'll see that Question of the Day 2 is part of this unit. And in the Question of the Day 2, which you're meant to think about and read about and answer on your own time. So I have a link to the required reading right there. It's not long. It's in our digital textbook. And it gives the legal definitions. And it's about fair use. It's about Creative Commons. It's about public domain. And it's about copyright. And that's all. That's all there is to it. It definitely relates to what we're doing with compositing. And we'll do a discussion on that in class as well. But then I also have some other resources that are pretty interesting, especially dealing with fan art and dealing with the VARA, the Visual Arts Rights Act of 1990, little videos, and then we'll talk about these slides informed by my own experience and associations with people that have been sued for copyright infringement, right? And their stories, how that can help inform our practice. Okay, so we move through the question of the day. Don't forget about it. It's there. It informs what we're doing. And we want to build our fantasy creatures in such a way that we understand the anatomy so that we have the option to animate them later. That's why the skeletal template sketch is so important that we talked about in the last class in the first video. And if we go to the home page and you shortcut to where we turn in the assignment and what gives the directions to the assignments page, on this page I also give you other resources. So we looked at professional compositing artists for the last assignment that worked in fine art photography, worked in advertising, used compositing of landscape components for their work. Here is how concepts for creatures are designed using a knowledge of compositing in other people's pixels. And this is using the work of R.J. Palmer. Now, R.J. Palmer was just a student like you guys, interested in digital art, interested in creature design, wanted to work for video games, animation. And as a personal project, he wanted to try to create very realistic 2D images of dinosaurs. And to do that, because there's a lot of documentation of the bones of dinosaurs, he started to composite from the photographs of animal corpses of like horses and cows and other creatures to actually build and composite onto those bones the musculature of the dinosaurs to really build the anatomy inside out. So going way beyond just a skeletal sketch to like a full composite for each layer of the skeleton, the muscles, and then the covering. And he has since amended these with new knowledge about dinosaurs to add feathers. And he continued this skill and just kind of posted it on his social media. And then as series like Game of Thrones became popular, he started applying that same knowledge to fantasy creatures, right? To creatures that can't really exist in our reality. There are no creatures that have wings and upper limbs, right? But if that was to work, just like the creature designers for Game of Thrones had to figure out, how does that musculature work so that the joint is shared on the collarbone, all to be powered by the same breastbone muscle. So you can see there's actually two sets of muscles, the ones for the arms, which are tucked underneath, and the ones that are wrapped over the sternum for the wings. Now, one of his tricks for this is not just to kind of sketch it out and understand the skeleton, but it's also to make little pipe cleaner maquettes so that you can understand the structures and then understand how you can pose them effectively. And that is very helpful. And that same understanding helps with just 2D kind of illustrated work, as well as the photographic composite work. So then he got into his social media work that got him hired. And that was taking the idea of Pokemon seriously. And I've already mentioned Pokemon is a really great inspiration for silhouette design. And taking kind of other pop culture creatures seriously and trying to composite them in this way of understanding the anatomy. So this is what he really started to get known for, taking Pokemon and then compositing them out of believable materials. Right? So they could be three-dimensional and photographic. And some of them work better than others. Right? This is one of my favorites. And he added just a little animation there. Now, this is his big tip for how to do this. And this is something I always point out, right? The problem with digital art is it's easy to lose. Whereas traditional art, it's hard to store all of it. It's easy to store your digital art. It's hard to know where to find it. So make sure you're organizing your stuff as you go. So what was his first professional job in digital art? It was actually being the creature designer for the live action Pokemon movie, which was Detective Pikachu. And got kind of rave reviews and is very gainfully employed now because of that knowledge of skeletal structure. How do you make a 2D design into something that's believable? All right. So let's go to where we work on this assignment. And I posted my sketch inspired by some Pokemon. I like to always take a few. And the sketch is not, a detailed sketch by any stretch of the imagination. It's rough, basic shapes. It's supposed to help you understand the skeleton, the cranium, the mandible, the spine, the rib cage, the legs, the pelvis, that kind of thing. So I show you some step-by-steps. I don't usually do this for assignments just because the sketching is a little different. And then we're going to rough cut in place. We're going to do a lot of that today. But the difference is I'm not looking at references I got from Pixabay to do my sketch. I'm looking at inspiration, right? Then, based on my sketch, I am looking on Pixabay for animal parts that are at the same angle as my sketch. And then you seam them together, and then you make them more believable. And so this was my sketch. Now, I have ideas about where I can find these things, and I'm going to use Pixabay for it, which you can find under links. You can also find it in the assignment, or you can just type in Pixabay. And I'm going to be informed by my sketch, which I put into my assignment 2 folder. It's good to be organized, right? There's a new operating system on these computers, just updated, so now the folders are the same color as your designation, which is a little annoying, but I'll get used to it. And I'm just going to open up that sketch just in preview and have it in the corner here to reference. So what's the first thing I might look for? Well, the head is the most important part. So I showed you how I searched for toucan images on Pixabay. And I want to scroll past any sponsored content. And what I'm looking for is a toucan head that is angled in this way. So it's angled not completely to the side, which is what almost all of these references are. It's angled a little bit more like this, where it's facing us a bit. So this might be one that I open in a new tab and download. And this one's kind of looking up and to the side, because remember, you can always flip it. So you're really using your sketch to inform the angle you want to find. Or this one, right, which is the right angle, just flipped. Okay, then of course, you go to the pages and you're going to download them at their highest resolution. And we need 5 or more, but you're definitely going to download more than 5, because who knows which one you're going to use. So now I've gone through that step, informed by my sketch, and I'm happy to give you input on your sketches. The next step is to build your references. So my inspirations were these Pokemon. Make it a little bigger here. All these kind of pirate-ish Pokemon and lizard-ish Pokemon. And so my sketch is informed by the positioning and the silhouette of them combining some different features, like the fin on the top of the head, the crazier feet, changing the tail a little bit. And that's the silhouette I want. So now I'm thinking, what kind of creatures can I find that from? And then I start downloading those references. So the toucans, the open mouth, the monkey body, the tail and back legs, the eyes. I found a cow, but cow eyes weren't as evocative as I wanted. They're kind of dark. So I also found a cool owl eye. Yeah, and Gila monster parts. So to add to this, let's get some more beaks here. The ones I got from Pixabay. I'm also getting some feet. I put those all into my reference folder. This is a little tricky now with the new operating systems. You can't just grab a bunch and move them easily. So a way to make that easier is you hold down Command when you do it, and it will grab all of them. And then you can move them all. If you have that difficulty, sometimes I do with my trackpad or my mouse. So like I grab all of them and I just move them. Of course, right now it's working. But sometimes it will just isolate one like that. So to keep it from isolating one after you've grabbed a bunch, hold down Command and then start to move. And then you can let go of Command and it will move them all over. So I have a lot more than 5 references here, but they're for different parts. And so what I really want to do is find what are called my hero assets. hero assets are the ones that